Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Her Story, My Story podcast. This is Abby and Janie, your host. And we are so happy that you are back here with us. And today we thought we would talk about change. What do you think, Janie?
Yeah, I definitely think. I mean, how can you come into a new environment like such as this and not? Well, I'll say this. If you decide not to change, it's going to be really, really hard for you. But change is necessary.
I think change is interesting because, I feel like a lot of people don't like change, but it's inevitable.
I agree that a lot of people don't like change. I mean, before we came to Wanda, I was talking to one of my cousins who is also I didn't count her as the friend as another friend because she's my cousin,
Mm.
but she's much more than that to me. So I was telling her I was sharing a struggle with getting Ben to agree to come to the continent. And she was like, "Well, Janie, everybody's not like you. Everybody just don't pick up and go somewhere." Like, so yeah, so that speaks to what you were just saying. Like, change is hard for a lot of people.
When your cousin said, everybody's not like you, it just makes me curious why because change is inevitable. There's small, medium, large, big changes that happen whether we want them to, and then changes that happen because of the choices that we make. And I just find it interesting because is it a type of person that makes a big change like that? Like someone like you, Janie. Is it really someone like you? Or you see where I'm kind of going with that? Why would somebody think that's something you could do, but that's not something that I could do? Why would, because we're all people.
Right. I think she was speaking to she felt like it was easier for me to do.
And was it easy?
Relatively speaking, I think it
Mm,
was easy. The hardest part was getting Ben to come. Like, I had to pray a lot. There's a lot of spiritual warfare. There was a lot going on. Those were the hard things. But as far as just turning from everything,
mm,
I didn't have the same struggle that I've seen some other people, well, that I heard that
mm,
some other people have. Like I'm not attached to things. So
mm,
I think that makes it easier. But I want to say too that, I'm a veteran. I'm an Army veteran.
mm,
And so I think even that mindset helped. Like I was used to kind of packing up and going somewhere else.
wow.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Okay.
and if we know that the Most High doesn't waste any of our experiences, I think that experience helped me too. You know, and even if I go back further than that, when uh when my brother and I were coming up, we moved around. Like,
Mm,
we lived in North Philly, then we moved to to another part of Philly. You understand what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
there was the changing of schools and stuff, and none of it felt good at the time. But I think that all of that helped make me the person that I am today, as far as all those experiences help. So I can put something down and
Mm,
go on to the next thing.
mm,
And sometimes that's not a good thing. It's not always a good thing. If I believe I'm supposed to do something, I don't struggle that much. Once I really believe it, once I
mm.
really, really believe it, I don't say, "Oh, what am I gonna do with my car?" Or "What am I gonna do with the house?" Or "What's in the house?" Shoot, girl, I'll put some long tables outside and and put that stuff on the tables, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's what she was saying. Yeah. I think it's what you're attached to, if that's not really getting off topic. But for me, that was a part of it. Like the willingness to do something different and to get rid of whatever was hindering that
Mm.
process. I was willing.
Yes. Listening to you, it makes me think of adaptability. I'm hearing the ability to adapt to new environments and changes. And You're talking about growing up having to move, and that wasn't your choice. Somebody made that choice for you. So you were kind of forced into those changes. It was uncomfortable for you in the beginning, but you were able to kind of adapt to your new environment and make something out of it. So being in those experiences let you know something about yourself that you were able to become comfortable there, you know? Be in a place where you felt like yourself, like you could do something, you could be something that's purposeful, or, maybe it is just as simple as being comfortable again, being comfortable with the familiar things in your area. And then, so knowing that you were capable of doing that, I think opens you up to being willing to do a change like that again because you know that while in the beginning it might be uncomfortable, you've seen the other side of it. You've seen the other side of that initial change and how it was rewarding and beneficial for you.
I don't know why, like, during these talks, I was feeling so emotional. My goodness. Another thing that pushed me was, like, thinking about my kids, right? And when I say kids, I mean,
Mm,
my grandkids, all my bloodline.
mm,
And, thinking of the legacy, right? And there was no legacy to leave them in the state. What am I leaving them? The legacy of what?
mm,
And so all these things, like I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the Most High calling me to do something new, different. When I talk about legacy, I don't know if I'll be able to leave them any. I'm not talking about tangible things like houses and whatever, land or whatever. That's very possible. I may be able to do that. We may be able to do that. But I'm talking about being able to change, being willing to change, being willing to let go of some old stuff
mm,
that's not working for you, but it's just you're comfortable there,
mm,
right? So when my kids or my grandkids, look at my life, I want them to feel inspired.
mm. I love that.
I really want them to feel inspired. And my nieces and my nephews too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have one niece, she's very proud um that that we moved to Africa. She was telling her teacher about it, and you know what I'm
Wow.
saying? So they want to inspire someone to do something different and think outside of the box or, you know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Feel like a lot of people are looking at us because I think that there are many people who want to be doing what you're doing. Maybe they're thinking the same thing, like, you know, what what's the ultimate reason for the life that I'm living right now? What's the purpose? What, sometimes I think, there's some of us who do think, we have to be brave to do something, right? But a lot of times, it's not until you actually do it that you find the courage you never knew you had.
Mm, that's right.
And I agree. I think it is inspiring to see somebody that especially a family member or somebody that you look up to who's doing something so, so out of the ordinary. Literally picking yourself up from a continent to move thousands of miles away to another continent and not just randomly, not just, "Oh, I feel like, a change of scenery and, so we're gonna go live lavishly and go enjoy our retirement." That's not your story. That's, you and Ben you have a purpose. Like there was a purpose, there is that hole that you had, um, to come here, and there's a reason. You guys are working hard to build a community, you know, to build and I feel like we're in the beginning of it. I feel like this is the beginning of a bigger, larger community, and the more that we're here and the more that we, um, build it, our friends and our family who in the States, in America, and from other places are gonna see the community and see, "Oh, they can do it. I can do it." It becomes
Right.
more of a reality. It becomes more of a possibility and maybe not such a huge, scary change.
Yeah. Because I told my kids, I said, "Well, we're here, you know, going through the hardships to make it a little easier for you. Because I'm prayerful that they will come."
Mm,
And I understand that it's something brand new to think about. Even though I've been talking about it for years, right? It's still something brand new for them because you got to think about how am I going to live? So,
yeah.
okay, so I have family there, but I'm just going to go there and live with them forever.
Mhm,
You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Because I think what we talked about in the in the first podcast is that we're not in America, we're not really about community the same way that we are here.
mhm,
That we're learning to be again, rather,
mhm,
here. Like, I'm not saying in America there's no community because that's not true.
mhm,
But a lot of times your kids may think that, well, they need to live separate from you. They want to be independent. They want to do whatever they're grown enough to do.
mhm.
And I think here, you got to come back in.
Yeah,
You gotta come back into the fold, right?
yeah,
Because that's how you survive. That's a big piece of how you
true.
survive, being a part of the community, not running off and trying to do your own thing. There's a time for that, but, I think as you're growing, especially if you're unmarried, why not?
I know. Yeah.
Why not help build your family, where you are?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I think it's interesting, kind of building on what we were talking about earlier about, um, the comment of "I'm not like you," to be able to just get up and go. And, I think it's not a mistake, the thing that we go through in life. I feel like the Most High allows things to prepare us. And I feel like he's allowed my life to go as it went to prepare me for this moment, you know? Um, Similar to you, there's a lot of things that you went through that made you stronger, that made you more flexible in your thinking as far as being able to make a move like this. And even for myself, I've been through a lot in my life, a lot of different changes, a lot of different challenges and things. And if I can be fully transparent, I feel like as soon as I get to a place in my life where I feel comfortable, something changes and it's drastic and it's not fun. And I think I was getting to a point where I was just tired. I'm tired of adapting to a new situation. I'm tired of it. I don't want to do it anymore. You know, in my frustrations and everything, I always go to the Most High. And I bring all my complaints, my anger, my dissatisfaction, all of it. I just come and I say, Most High, you're in charge. Why? Why do I have to do this again? I don't want this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to struggle. I don't want to feel like I'm striving, just doing. Um, and, I was like, and I think what I really wanted was a sense of peace. And in my mind, like, how we always want like an ultimate thing like that we're working for. So for me, I wanted a house and I wanted to have a house on a lake so I could sit on the balcony and watch the lake. And that image in my mind just gives me like a sense of peace, right? And I was like, that's all I want. I just want a house on the lake, sit there, with a cup of coffee, and just know that I'm at peace. Okay.
That would be ideal.
And I was talking to the Most High. I'm pretty sure there were ugly tears. And I was like, all I want is a simple life. Sorry, now I'm gonna get emotional. And he said, but I didn't create you to live a simple life.
Mm.
And then he told me, he said, I will give you your house on that lake, but your peace comes from me.
Hallelujah.
I was like, for real? I had nothing to say after that. I was just, and that kind of brings it back to like purpose, right? You were not an accident, JD. You were born at this time in the life that you lived, the Most High is using it for his purposes. It's you created with purpose. And I have to believe that for myself too, even if it's for the sake of somebody else, even if it's for the sake of my boys. 3 boys,
Yeah.
no women, no girls, I mean, a girl would be nice.
You might get one.
Maybe. But, when you were talking about legacy, um, it reminded me of what my husband was saying, like, when we first got together, my husband he has daughters, and when we got together, he said, "I really want a son so I can leave a legacy." And then we had our first child, and it was a boy, and then we had our second child, and it was another boy, and then we had our third child, and it's another boy. And I feel like that was an answer to Jason's prayer for being able to leave a legacy. And I can only imagine what that means now. It's becoming more than I ever thought it would be, than we ever thought it would be. Because we never saw ourselves living here in Africa until like the last few years. And now we're here and we're growing and we're raising our young boys to be strong men of excellence, of integrity, and a whole new culture and a whole new way of life that's different from me and Jay. And and this is his chance to leave that legacy, kind of like what you were saying, leaving a legacy for your bloodline, changing the story. Whatever that story is going on in America, it's time to change the story.
Yes.
And I feel like that's why we're here.
Yeah. I think we're paving the way. I remember when we were at your house the first time after we met and you had that dinner. Uh, and I was sitting at the table with one of the brothers and Mark, and I asked him about that, like about while we're here, biblically speaking.
Mm,
He's a great teacher. Oh my goodness.
I love Mark.
Yeah. He knows how to break it down. He knows how to deliver. Um, like I feel like he understands what I'm asking. And even if I'm thinking about it wrong, he corrects me without causing me to feel down. Okay. Like, yeah, I just like the way
I
he
love that.
brings the word, right? So he said, well, where the he goes? And I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? And then I had to look up the scripture, which I think it's in Jeremiah, but I don't remember exactly where right now. But he said, yeah, we're paving the way. And that helped me so much because, prior to coming and upon arrival, I'm thinking of legacy, but I still didn't know fully what that meant. And I still don't know now, like I'm learning because it's an experience.
Right.
Right. And but that definitely gave me more clarity when I think about that the Most High is using us. Like you said, there's purpose in us being here, and there's greater purpose than what our small, minds relative to His mind can comprehend.
Yeah.
And I think it probably would be way overwhelming
Yeah.
to know all the stuff that's before us. But so that helped me a lot. So I'm thinking legacy, and then from a biblical standpoint, yeah, it's what I wanted, but on a bigger scale. You know, I just want to tell you this short story because this has always, well, I think in most of my adult life, this has really inspired me. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, has 6 children. I want to say she had 8, but 2 died. And so she left West Virginia and brought her kids to Philadelphia. As a single parent, I think my grandfather was I think he was in the military at the time, but they had friction. I think they had broken up by this point. She was one woman, 6 children. Okay. She went to Philadelphia and she worked as a maid, of course. We're talking about my father was born in 41, so you can
Yeah.
imagine. So, she worked as a maid, she worked, as a housekeeping at Temple University Hospital, where I was actually born, but she managed to pay off that house,
Mm.
you know, that her kids grew up in, and after that, after she passed on, her kids and even some of her grandkids came on hard times, they were able to live in that house,
Mm.
and just pay the taxes. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so I am so inspired by that. I really am, 'cause it couldn't have been easier. She was mean as I don't know what, but she was
Oh, 'cause she was working hard for
yeah,
everybody.
yeah, she
I
could
mean, that
she was angry, you heard, and I get it. I ain't mad at her. I get it. I love her.
yeah.
And, but yeah, but that's so inspiring to me. And, I remember one year when I was talking to the same cousin, her name was Ray, who, said, "Well, Jamie, everybody ain't like you." Um,
Yeah.
we were talking one time about how we be just whining over stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we don't even have the tenth of the difficulty. We don't even have that much compared to what our ancestors experienced in the United States. But we're crying, we whining, we can't do this, we can't do that. That was many years ago when she and I had that conversation. And now I think about my kids now, you know, I remember like when, I mean, I was a single parent raising them. And sometimes I had to work 3 jobs,
Mm.
you know? And I'm just saying that strength that was pulled from my grandmother, my mother too, my dad, and that strength that was pulled, And so we still have it,
Mm.
But I think the Most High is bringing us back to a place where we don't focus so much on things, because things can weigh you down. I guess what I'm trying to say is when I was thinking about legacy, when I was coming here, I was thinking about some land, you know, some real estate perhaps, something that I could leave them when I pass. But when I talked to Mark about while we're here, it just opened up something that is so much more.
Mm.
We're paving the way, but we're paving the way back to our homeland. We're paving the way back to Yahuwah. We're paving the way. Like, if somebody's going to follow, we don't know who they are, but I hope I didn't get off track. But
I don't think so,
things
no.
run through my brain.
Yeah, I think the whole conversation started up about change, and there's elements of change, like we discussed, there's adaptability, there's purpose, and where does that sense of purpose come from? And then, I think it helps to see, to have a glimpse of what we're changing for. And I think that's admirable. Like, your grandmother, it's a good picture of like what we're doing here. Is we're building a community, we're building a house, we're paving the way for Yahuwah's children to come and have a place to stay. And I think that's powerful imagery, how that gives you strength, especially when you think about your own family. Um, and Jamie, like even the people here, like you have family here
Yes.
that, I know my kids look up to you. I know they look up to Dan. You know, I feel like they have a sense of belonging, when their spiritual fathers here. They're also like, "Hey, let's come hang out," and they love on my kids. And I can see that they have a sense of belonging when their spiritual fathers come around, like Ben comes around and Brother Hamp and Mark. They're so excited to see they're I'm gonna keep calling them spiritual fathers because, they have it. an expectation for these young boys to be excellent, to have integrity, and they will correct them when it's necessary. And then they will also spend the time with them and speak wisdom into them and teach them how to do things. And, especially my oldest son, I see him his whole behavior, his whole attitude changes. Like he just becomes a better little boy. Like he just that sense of belonging, I think, really does it for him. You can tell that he's really settling in. I just think that even as we're building things for people that are coming, we're also building things for the people that are already here.
Yes.
A change. I think it's a process of healing too. This is how we really help each other out. You know, we have we all have a purpose and we have a unified um well, purpose.
Yeah, I feel like we're going back to, I think I alluded to it a little bit. I think we're going back, like at least in the Black community, how we used to be. Like you know, like I spent a lot of my formative years growing up, well, like elementary school, that era, growing up at my grandmother's house.
Mm.
So she had to go to work early in the morning way before she could fix breakfast, and we couldn't cook. We wasn't allowed to cook. Of course, we probably would have burned the house down.
Yeah.
And so it was a neighbor down the street who we went to her house, or
Mm.
the family around the corner, we went to their house and we had breakfast there. And then when it was time to go to school, we walked to school from there.
Mm.
I think we're coming back to that here,
Okay.
you know. And it's an important way to be, because like you have mentioned earlier, you want people around your kids whom you could trust. Like, Jamie and Ben, like we need to go to the store. The kids are with, your person,
Mhm.
your babysitter or whatever, but your housekeeper, but can y'all check on them?
Yes.
And Betty's gonna go over there.
Yes.
And or
Yeah.
or we're going out, can the kids come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what community is,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's the way we used to be.
Mm.
So I feel like we're coming back to that. We're getting away from that I.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's not always easy, but we're seeing it as doable.
Mhm.
And I know that the Most High is right in the middle of it,
Mhm.
because we don't have to be together.
Right.
You and I don't even have to be sitting here having this conversation.
True.
I mean, he's doing things that we couldn't have foreseen.
That's true.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I think there's something deep within each one of us. Like, we'll know as we grow and talk to other people. Like, we have to know that we can't really do it without one another. We can't.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's what community is.
Mhm.
Like, it's cheesy. It takes a village, but it's true. It
It's
takes a
true.
village. I'm only saying
Absolutely.
it's cheesy because people have bandied that expression about so much,
Yeah.
but it really does. If you
Yeah.
want a healthy environment, you want healthy kids, well-rounded kids,
Mhm.
it takes a village.
Does. It does.
And I think it's better out here for the kids because, they're not learning a lot of things that they would be learning in the States.
True.
Like,
Mhm.
we don't have to get into that right now, but some behaviors you may not want your kids
Right.
to be exposed to.
That's true.
And it's more of a controlled environment, I think, here. You can choose to homeschool 'em, you can choose
Mhm.
to send them to a public school or a private school. But in the States, I know, like, my kids, for some portion of their lives, they attended private school. And it became very unaffordable. Mm, Like, but just trying to get out of that place where there were no good books, or the books were in bad repair, or there were no books, to a place where they had the same opportunities as others. Yeah, like, again, I don't have any kids here, but if I did, I probably would keep them home
Mhm.
and homeschool them just like you're doing
Mhm.
because there's something really valuable in that.
Definitely.
And then maybe as they get older, you know, and well, kids adapt to change, I think, way quicker than we do. But you get to decide what changes you want them to experience.
Mhm.
Whereas in the States, you kinda or at least where I lived, you kinda
Right.
just send them out. I used to say that before I was even, born again, before I even knew I was a Hebrew, before any of that, I could see the difference in my son when he started going to school.
Mm.
And I used to be like, "The fight is against the world." And that was, some things you just not right. This worldly thinking, it changes them. You think about school and you send your kids out to school, not talking about in the States, they're gone most of the day. You're working.
Mhm.
So you say they get home 3:30, you get home 5:30.
Mhm.
So now you gotta cook dinner, you gotta make
Mhm.
sure homework is done and all that.
Mhm.
Then you're starting all over. But the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to make is they spend very little hours with us.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's been out. And I think
Yes.
here changes all of that.
Yes, and I think, everything that you're saying is very interesting because even back in the States, I worked in the public school sector and I worked in a charter school environment as well. So I'm very familiar with, you know, like, in-school environment. And it's interesting because there's a lot of, like, debate on, like, homeschooling versus, private versus public versus charter school, and the bottom line, I think what hit it home for me is that at the end of the day, I am responsible for my own children. I am responsible for what goes in their eye gates, their ear gates.
Yeah.
What are they absorbing? What are they believing? Like, what are they being taught? What ideas are being shared? Um, and my hope is that they can have a well-rounded um, wealth of information in regards to different subject matters, right? But I also know that it needs to come from the viewpoint of a biblical worldview,
Right.
right? Not a Christian worldview,
Right.
a biblical worldview. And, you know, as I'm on that journey myself, I'm trying to find ways to invite them on that journey with me and to take them with me. They're only kids for so long.
Yeah.
Really, when you think about it, it feels like forever when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, then you look back and in the 20s.
Right, exactly. Like, I'll be 40 next year, and I was a kid for maybe 18 years of my life.
Mm.
And then as you develop and you get into that higher levels of thinking, you start thinking for yourself, you start doing your own research, you start looking into your own things, what you were taught when you were younger stays with you, you know. 'Cause I grew up reading the Bible and a lot of that has stayed with me. And I've always been curious about the Most High and just all of those things. And I think it's really important to kind of your kids are never gonna know it if they don't see it,
Right.
and if they are not exposed to it, and they're not being exposed to it, and these schools, even out here in Rhonda, they're not being exposed to it in a way that is meaningful and impactful, like, why? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, why? Why am I reading the Bible? Why am I and I love it. Like, we were reading the Bible yesterday, and they had some questions, and, they're, like, 5, and, like, I think we were going through the genealogy of, Moses, I can't
Not the
remember.
genealogy.
Or, like, it was like, they were like, "Adam lived for 900 and some years? What?" Like, they were like, "You can live to be 500 years." Like, it was just, the kid being kid,
Right. That's so cute.
you know?
That's cute though.
Yeah. But, they think about it, and they hear the stories and, it plants a seed, and then we're gonna revisit the story when they get older, and,
Right.
I feel like we got off on a tangent about kids and school and stuff, but, I mean, that's a really good conversation to have.
Well, I think it's a part of change because that's a
Yeah.
part of the experience, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's changed for everyone when they came here.
Mhm.
Now, your youngest may not notice that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other two, they may have, some real strong memories later of what it was like to
Mhm.
be in the States versus,
Yeah.
or be here versus in the States. But yeah, I think it's all relative. I often think about like, wow, just suppose this could happen for me when my kids were young enough that I could say, "Oh, I don't care if you don't want to go. You're
Mm.
going." You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But it just wasn't the way to happen. But how different their lives might be
Right.
now.
And I think that's part of the change that you're making. Part of the change that we're making, right? Because I feel like life in America is designed for that never ending striving and that burnout, right? Like it's economically it's to the point where, you know, everybody has to work. What are you gonna do with your kids? And then it's getting to the point where we can't even make enough money to fully support our family. So we have to rely on federal assistance. And then federal assistance
Right,
is making it to where we have to follow what they want us to do.
right,
And we have to go into public school because it's free. Because how else am I going to be able to teach my kids anything?
right.
So, I feel like we have a lot of parents out there who want something different, but the way the system is set up, they can't break out of it. And I think
Right.
that's part of, you know, um, the benefit that I'm finding being able to move here out of that system and that I have more freedom in those choices to make, the affordability aspect and, the homeschooling, because there's a homeschool group here already. They've been here for years. And we meet every Friday and the kids are able to get together and hang out with each other. And there's people from all over. We have people that are expats from the US, and then we have people from Kenya, we have people from Zambia, we have people from Malawi, and it's a mix. And I love that for my kids because, it really opens their mind. It makes them more adaptable, right?
Oh,
It makes them more open-minded for different kinds of people and, um, just understanding like true community and things like that. So, I don't feel like, I think we can get that to some extent in the States as far as homeschooling goes. But even then it's just different here.
it really is. And I like when I couldn't afford for instance, for my daughter, when I couldn't afford to keep her in the private school any longer, I said, you know what, you're not going into the public school system.
Mm,
I'ma homeschool you. And there was this program, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was Christian based.
okay.
And I remember the flack that I got. Like it was worse than flack. Not from her. She was down
That's cool.
until other people in the family had something to say.
Wow.
So the ability to remove yourself from the crowd is necessary. That's a big part of being adaptable to change. Like, not wait for change to hit you, but like be like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to do things this way just because everybody else is doing things this way,
Yeah.
you know? And so I got a lot. It was a lot. And so the change could begin like right where you are. Like you may not can see your way out yet, but if you start changing the way you think about stuff, you know,
Yeah.
I think that's a major part of the beginning of everything.